Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to another episode of The Draw Step. In today's video, I wanted to cover some of the commanders that I am most excited to build decks around from the Final Fantasy set, and these are kind of a mixture of off-the-wall or really powerful decks that I think that you guys are really going to enjoy. You're really going to want to stick around to the end because the last deck that I have thought out, cooked up for you guys, it's going to blow your mind, is incredibly powerful, and you're not going to want to miss it. So, Final Fantasy is finally out. It's been out for a couple weeks now, and it has got to be one of the most insanely sought after sets I have ever seen. That was almost a tongue twister right there. But the hype surrounding this drop, the prices that people are paying for some of the surge foils and alternate arts is actually mind-blowing. I think back probably a year or two ago when Warhammer came out, they also did some of like the surge foils and things like that. And I know some of those cards were pretty expensive, but nothing that I have seen short of probably like the hype around the One Ring has come close to what Final Fantasy is doing. Obviously, there are the chase cards like the face commanders in Surge Foil and the chocobos, obviously. So those are what most people are going after. But the first one that I was looking at, and I don't know how you pronounce it, but it's like Hope Estheim, I think. It's white blue for a 2/2 with lifelink, so very easy to get out, very fast paced, and that's kind of how I would want to run this deck, is as quickly as possible. But since at the beginning of your end step, each opponent mills X cards, where X is the amount of life you gain this turn. So obviously you would be leaning into lifelink, and that does come up in another deck that we're going to touch on later. But in these colors, white, blue, these are some of the easiest colors to gain life in. You can do it at a really quick rate, and white is not a color you commonly see mill being associated with. So I think that's kind of unique. It's a different approach to mill, and although mill may not be the most popular archetype out there, I think it can be fun for you, not as fun for your opponents. And again, it's the uniqueness factor of it. This whole set, the whole Final Fantasy set, I think part of, outside of the collector side of things, part of what made this set so good and so chased after is there is a lot of really unique cards that they put in here. Like flavor-wise, some of these commanders, they ate. Chef's kiss. So this one again, I think that it would be a fast-paced deck. I like the fact that it does hit each opponent. I think that's one of the normal shortcomings when it comes to mill decks. There are some really great cards out there in blue, like a Fleet Swallower or things like that, but that's only hitting one opponent at a time. So this way you can make sure that you're bringing all of your opponents down at the same time. And hopefully none of them have like a Lab Maniac or a Thassa's Oracle, because then that would kind of ruin the whole thing. But moving on, next, this is another not as popular archetype, but I think it solves some of the problems. We have Balthier and Fran. Hopefully that's how you pronounce that. They're a human rabbit, or a human and a rabbit, I suppose would technically be what it is. But it's a 4/3 with reach for 3 mana, which that's an absurd stat line. Like, just pause. Let's stop and think for a second. Going back, like, not even that long. I feel like only a couple years ago, 3 mana would at best net you like a 3/3. Now you're getting a 4/3 with reach and an absurd boost stat line on this thing, because it also says vehicles you control get +1/+1 and have vigilance and reach. So that right there, great for attacking, but also being able to stay back and protect as well too. And then when a vehicle crewed by Balthier and Fran this turn attacks, if it's the first combat phase of the turn, you may pay 1 red and a green. If you do, after this phase, there's an additional combat phase. What the hell? What? What? Normally, additional combats are at least 5. Like, take, for instance, an aggravated assault or some of the other extra combat cards out there. And this one's just going like, no, how about half the cost? So a lot of times with vehicles, the problem that you run into is that it takes so long to get up and running. You got to crew them. There's extra steps to it. This is making all of them stronger, hit a little bit harder, be able to protect you after hitting you harder, and oh, just for fun, let's hit you twice in a row. So this is one that I think could be very aggro. You're in aggro colors. You're in red and green. You're going to be pumping out a lot of land. You're going to be able to do a lot of damage with this. I think that as far as vehicle commanders go, this could be a really, really strong commander. Or I do have a friend who actually has a vehicle deck that I think that this would be, bare minimum, a very good include to the 99. But I think it could stand alone as its own commander. So those are the first two. The next one that I was looking at is Kain Traitorous Dragoon. Not a dragon, a dragoon, I think. I don't know. It's a 2/4, and it says during your turn, Kain has flying. Very nice. And when Kain deals combat damage to a player, that player gains control of Kain. If they do, you draw that many cards, create that many tapped treasure tokens, then lose that much life. So this, when I read this, I was instantly like, whoa, okay, that's kind of different. I like that. Is it the most powerful on its face? Not necessarily, but I do think that it's getting you ahead in 2 of the most important ways: card draw and mana production by getting you those treasure tokens. I think the way you would want to go with this is you would want to beef the card up. It would be a quasi Voltron type deck, because you'd obviously want him hitting for more. A good example of a card that I would want to include in it is Eye of Nidhogg. Again, these card titles are outrageous. But what it says, for 3 mana, it's a legendary enchantment, an enchants creature. Enchanted creature is a black dragon with base power and toughness 4/2, has flying, death touch, and is goated. And when Eye of Nidhogg is put into a graveyard from the battlefield, return it to its owner's hand. So you will be able to keep using this over and over again. So basically, it is reversing your commander's stat line, making it a 4/2 instead of a 2/4, which we're fine with, the flying and death touch, and the fact that it's goated. That is another potential problem that I could foresee with this commander, is that you smack someone one time and then you get the value from it, but then they're like, I don't want to give it back to you, or I don't want to hit somebody else with it. I'm just going to hold on to it. So in order for this to be an effective commander and do the things you want it to do, you're going to need it to be goated so that it keeps swinging each turn and you're getting that value. So something like that Eye of Nidhogg is going to be a very strong include in the deck, getting you that value, keeping things running. And I think there are some other cards in black that are really strong. You could lean into a little bit of sharing bad things with your opponents besides just your commander. Speaking of sharing bad things, that actually brings us to our next commander that I was looking at. And that, my goodness, is a whole mouthful of a name. Zidane, Tantalus Thief. That wasn't actually as bad as I thought it was about to be. I nailed it, guys. Thanks. This one is quite a bit more expensive at 5 mana, 3 red and a white for a 3/3. But the reason why it's so expensive is when Zidane enters, gain control of target creature and opponent controls until end of turn. Untap it. It gains lifelink and haste until end of turn. And whenever an opponent gains control of a permanent from you, create a treasure token. So couple different things that we can do here. First and foremost, obviously, it's basically like a Zealous Conscripts. When it's entering, it's gaining control of a creature for you, but it also adds the lifelink, which is, I can't think of too many other of these like piracy effects that add the lifelink. So cool, fun, get some extra value when you're swinging on your opponent with their things. On top of that, you're getting the treasure token when it goes back to them. So we're in white. We can blink our commander. We can get that effect over and over. You can go that route. There's also what I would really build around is the fact that it says like whenever an opponent gains control of a permanent from you, you create a treasure token. I think you could have a lot of fun with that. There's a lot of different ways to give opponents some of your things. Like an example of that would be a harmless offering. For 3 mana, target opponent gains control of target permanent you control. And that kind of makes me think of, I actually have a deck on the channel. It's one of my favorites to play. It's very fast paced. The Beamtown Bullies is going to be linked up on screen. And that deck is all about giving your opponents nasty, disgusting things. So that kind of got my wheels turning, thinking about some of the nasty stuff you could give an opponent. Like an example would be a Bronze Bombshell. It says whenever a player other than Bronze Bombshell's owner controls it, that player sacrifices it. If that player does, Bronze Bombshell deals 7 damage to him or her. So your harmless offering could suddenly turn into a bomb for your opponent, and now it does 7 damage to them, which, you know, it's not insignificant, and it is giving you that treasure token as well too. So a lot of different ways that you could go with this deck. Well, really 2 different ways that you could go with this deck. I would probably have a little bit of both. I think that it would be a lot of fun. None of your opponents are going to find it too fun because nobody likes having their creatures taken and then like swung back in their face at them. But hey, you can go, well, I'm also giving you free things too. So happy days. All right, the last commander that I have, and I think the one that could objectively be the strongest out of all of these, is Aerith, Last Ancient. So, Aerith, please don't kill me. You Final Fantasy players who actually know these names, don't kill me in the comments. I understand. I'm just a pleb. I just play Magic the Gathering. I don't know how to pronounce any of these, but for 4 mana, 2 green and white, you are getting a 3/5 with lifelink. And it says at the beginning of your end step, if you gain life this turn, return target creature card from your graveyard to your hand. And then if you gain 7 or more life this turn, return that card to the battlefield instead. So the stat line on it, a 3/5, that is a fairly hefty creature, and the lifelink is stapled on it. This is one of those no-brainer things where once your commander is out, you swing, you have activated that ability. Bare minimum, you are getting a card back to your hand every turn. There's so again in green and white especially, there's so many ways for basically sneezing, you gain life these days. So that value of being able to bring stuff back from the graveyard is very strong. And 7 isn't that high of a bar. In fact, one of the best includes that I think you could put in this deck is something like the Staff of Hermes. Hermes? Again, don't know how to pronounce that either. But 3 mana, 2 to equip. Equipped creature has lifelink, tad redundant, but says as long as you have 30 or more life, which we are certainly going to have more than 30 life, equipped creature gets +5/+5 and has indestructible and prevent all damage that would be dealt to this creature. As soon as you get this on your commander, it is going to be insanely hard for your opponents to get rid of your commander. And on top of that, that has now automatically hit that second requirement on your commander. That's putting the stat line at an 8-10. So now every time you swing, you're guaranteed to get a creature from your graveyard to the battlefield. And the other advantage of a green is there are a lot of cards to surveil or self-mill. What I think the strategy, or the best strategy, best way to build this deck would be to put a lot of massive creatures, which green is known for. Dinosaurs, dragons, Eldrazi. I'm a sucker for Eldrazi. Anytime I can sneak an Eldrazi in a deck, I do it. So you put those into your deck. You have ways to mill them into your library, or into your graveyard from your library, and then anytime your commander swings, you are going to be able to cheat them out onto the battlefield. And then even if your opponents do take care of some of them, they're just going to keep coming back. They can't stop it. Can't stop, won't stop. So this is one that I think, again, just based on the cost of it versus the value that you're getting from it, is going to be absurdly strong and busted. This is probably the deck that out of all 5 of these I am most likely to build. I will certainly keep you posted, but I want you guys to let me know in the comments below. Vote for which of these 5 commanders is your favorite and you think that I should build a deck around, and whichever one gets the most votes, I'll build that deck. That being said, I appreciate you guys. Make sure you like the video. We have new videos coming out every Friday. Don't forget to ring the bell notification, subscribe, and we'll see you next time.